Hi and welcome to another street photography video with me, Nick Turpin. Today I'm leaving the metropolis to shoot in a suburban town. Today I'm driving to a town south of London, 9 miles south of London, a suburban, fairly large suburban town, about 35,000 population, called Croydon. It's about 9 miles south of the Thames, I think. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm very much aware that a lot of you out there are not, living in big cities like London, New York, Paris, and so on. With these throbbing, busy town centres full of tourists and so on. And a lot of you are going to be shooting in regional towns. With kind of less going on a little bit, where you may have to employ different strategies on the street, in order to get pictures. So I thought we'd come to Croydon instead of going to London's West End today, and we'd take on that challenge of making pictures in suburbia. So I'm in the Jeep on the way to Croydon, and I'm just going to park up there in the city centre, and we'll just head out. I'll be shooting on the Fuji X100F today, and I'm just going to see how it's different. I mean, it's going to be a learning experience for me as well. I think often, I travel a lot with my camera, doing festival teaching and that sort of thing, commission jobs abroad. And when you arrive in a new place, often you have to adapt the way that you work in order to get pictures there. So I think, today we're going to see what Croydon's like, and I imagine it's going to be a little bit quieter than the city centre, London city centre. Sorry, I've got to watch the lights at the same time as talking to you guys. But it's an opportunity. One of the nicest things about going to somewhere that you're not familiar with a camera is that you can actually use the act of photography to explore that place, and photography will reveal that place to you. So we're just going to wander around and see what we find. So I had quite a few emails and messages from people saying, where did you go? You started this YouTube channel and then disappeared for a couple of months, and that's true. And the reason for that is that I am a 100% commercial photographer. I make my living with photography. I don't have another job. I'm not a YouTuber who does a bit of photography. I'm a photographer who does a bit of YouTube. And I hope that makes my YouTube channel and things that I talk about a little bit more authentic, because I'm putting my money where my mouth is when it comes to photography most days of the week. So the summer, being a location photographer, I always work out of doors, virtually never work in a studio. So when the weather's good in the summer months, as it's been here in the UK, I tend to be quite busy with commercial work, and that's basically what's happened. So I've been doing some photography, I've been doing some filming. I made a nice film for the City of London for their Sculpture in the City festival. I made a nice film recently for Vodafone. I've been in Italy shooting for Agosini, the Italian lighting company. I'm going to turn left here. And what else have I been doing? I've been shooting for Mental Health England. I did a huge portrait, really interesting portrait there, where they had a little office, but they had like 50 staff, and they wanted one huge portrait. So I had to shoot them in little groups and composite it all together on a green screen. So that was quite technically challenging. I've been shooting for Transport for London, and I've been out doing my teaching. So I teach experiences, one-to-one street photography experiences in London. And if you're interested in coming out with me for a few hours in the West End to do street photography, you can arrange that through Mr. and Mrs. Smith hotels. I do it through the online concierge service, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So that's what I've been up to. Today's like one of my first proper free days for ages. So I've grabbed my cameras. I'm coming out. The weather's nice-ish. It's autumn now, but the weather's still quite nice. It's dry. I think it's gonna be a good day. So if I get a nice picture today, I'll be happy. I think it probably helps to know a little bit about the place that you're going to be shooting in. You don't need to know in great detail, but so for example, Croydon is, I guess, is considered to be kind of a fairly, or has been considered to be a fairly unglamorous town. It has a very large immigrant population, because in the UK, the sort of border control, the immigration office where people go to claim asylum to stay in the UK, that is based in Croydon. So a lot of people move to Croydon, get a flat and live there for the few months while they're applying for whatever leave to remain and so on. So that's going to be interesting. There'll be a lot of people who probably don't speak English and that sort of thing. So that that could play into the photography that we're doing. Also, Croydon was pretty heavily bombed in the Second World War, so in the 50s, mid to late 50s, it was fairly unsympathetically rebuilt. It's one of those kind of concrete brutalist sort of architecture places, and that's all changing now. It's being regenerated, it's being gentrified. Lots of kind of modern flats are going up with lovely glass balconies and all that sort of thing. Also, a lot of young people who can't afford the rents in London, they're moving to Croydon because they can afford to buy a flat there. So, and of course, they're changing the town as well. They've just opened something called Box Park there a couple of years ago, which is like a really trendy kind of large public place with the bars, and they play music there and that kind of thing. And that's the beginnings of the area changing, I think. So if I had a few quid, I'd buy a flat in Croydon now. I reckon it's on the up. It also has a tram network which opened in the year 2000, I think. So a lot of the streets that we'll be working will have these trams going up and down them, and that's something which I'm going to keep an eye out for. Could feed into the picture making as well. So it's useful to have a little bit of knowledge of the place that we're going to shoot in. So this is typical British suburbia, probably 1930s housing. This is the outskirts of Croydon. Now we're coming into the town, and there's a few photographers that I'm aware of who've been working in suburbia, as I call it, but in the suburbs of big cities. You could have a look at the work of, for example, Treacy, who's based in southeast London, and he takes a lot of pictures. He's a photographer, full-time photographer, but he does a lot of his street photography when he's out walking the dog in the evening and out with the kids and that kind of thing. A lot of his stuff is shot after the sun has gone down. And so have a look at Paul Treacy's work. I'll link to his stuff underneath. He's a good example of somebody making nice pictures in suburbia. And then the other one I quite like is the work of Adam Maizey. Adam is based in East Anglia and Norwich, I think, and he used quite a nice device. He used the white wall which was built up around a construction site, and he just used this white wall as a device for photographing the people, candidly photographing the people in Norwich. And I thought that was quite a nice approach. It's still candid public photography, it's still street photography, but he just sat in one place on one bench, and I think that's a really nice, clever device. It's almost like doing a survey of the people that live there. So check out Adam's work as well. I'll leave a link to that below if I can find him online. So my starting point for shooting will be the same as always. I may have to adapt it as the day goes on, but I'm going to be looking. I'm a kind of tableau photographer, so I'm looking for places where the lighting's interesting, where the architecture's interesting, where there's a nice bit of pavement, an interesting background, something that's typical of this place. And I'm going to be looking for actors to bring that place to life, and that's kind of it's always my starting point with this kind of photography. So this is one of those new blocks of flats I was telling you about. These are springing up all over Croydon now, and a lot of these hoardings are cordoning off areas which are being developed shortly. So I don't know this area very well. I'm really just exploring, with the camera, seeing what I can find. And these murals are quite interesting with the architecture behind. As always, I'm keeping my verticals vertical, keeping the camera upright as much as I can. It's quite pleasant, just needs people, doesn't it? I mean, that's the old architecture there, you can see, can't you, from the 50s and 60s. And that's the new stuff that's going up. So it's really being regenerated as an area. But I like this big number 3 is quite nice. With the buildings, that structure in the picture is very nice. That distance. Lifts coming up. Somebody coming out. You've got the mural there, the number 3. Need to just get the top of that building in, so I have to look up slightly. Here we go. Here's some figures. There's 3 of them. Little confusion there for a while, it's quite nice. That lighting in the centre there, vertical. It's quite a nice scene. So I'm just looking for little scenarios that I can use. Very few of them are worth spending a lot of time with. And this is quite interesting here. The gap in the building's very nice. I like the mural with the trains, that mesh. It's confusing and urban. You know, obviously not a picture in itself, but you know, I need people like this to come up. So there you can see one of these areas of waste ground. Rather nice lighting there though. That's quite a nice cityscape, isn't it? All these people standing around having a cigarette. On their mobile phones, having a smoke. Yeah, look at those figures down there. It's quite nice. Big head in the foreground. And the light's gone. But that was nice for a second. Quite a nice reflection possibility there, look. And that's very nice. Look, when they get the verticals and the light's coming back now, I'll get close to the glass as I can. That one figure's really good, and now his reflection's disappearing. It was nice for a few seconds there, though. There's something. Look at that. There's something quite nice going on, isn't there? So that beautiful light has come back. Look at that. Nice. Then that figure just arrived in that left-hand corner then. People streaming out of that building. Yeah, something quite nice happening here now. I really like this. It's like a big urban scene. Look at that pool of people. So I'm looking down a little bit, trying not to look down too much, get too much distortion. That little group of guys is brilliant. Look at them walking into that frame. Girl coming the other way. Very nice. So this kind of tells the story of Croydon in rather a nice way. You know, there's the wasteland there, there's the new blocks of flats. I'm actually shooting into one of them. You know, that's the story of gentrification in Croydon in a picture. Okay, just pulling back from that scene. On the wall here, there's some bits of paint on this girder, which I rather like with that lighting down there. So I need a bit of depth of field to get it all sharp. That adds something to my picture, doesn't it? Something confusing. It's like unreadable. There's lovely lines down there. Just need some figures in the right place. But that paint on that girder in the foreground just adds something nice. There's a reflection. Look at the guy in the glass, if I can get him on the right hand side as well. So I'm still focusing down on the people down there. There's people coming and going the whole time. No, that's not quite right, is it? So can you see I've got the sense of a picture here? It may or may not make today. I could come back tomorrow at the same time if the light's the same. But there's something here. There's that nice light, these railings, steps, the reflection in the glass. There's lots to play with. This white, these white bits of paint on that black girder, you know, really attracted to those and going on and on about them. Just need people in the right place down there to make this work. There's a guy coming. There's a guy coming. He could be quite nice. The light's gone a little bit though. Yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back. Look at those people splaying out there. That's nice. That's nice. Look at that. Lost that guy. Yeah, I mean, this is the substance of street photography, juggling these elements, finding these little unreadable things, and looking for opportunities. You know, I shoot a lot. People always say to me, oh my God, you just spray and pray, but really not. I'm looking, finding things. It's once I've found something that I take a lot of pictures. That guy putting his jumper on, that's quite nice. Lovely little detail. And because it's a big picture, he's tiny in the frame. He's popping against that pale stonework. Hoodie's nice, guy in a hoodie. And it's worth waiting because there's quite a lot of people coming through the scene. He's walking into that frame there, little gap between them. Bit of space there though on the left, isn't there, that's not filled. It's kind of a nice big busy picture, but the guy on his own's now coming into the space. Yeah, so this is definitely a space I would return to again, especially if the light was like this. So I love these little figures. And now the light is spilling onto this concrete here as well. Council has done some crazy shit on the pavement here, like a cycle path and these bizarre lines. I quite like this elderly little group here. That's quite interesting. Another building, that's an old one being renovated there, I think. The whole of Croydon is like that now. There's something interesting here with these lines. That couple looking at the bus thing there's nice. I like that little tower block behind. There's the bus driver in white, pigeon walking in. There's something going on here, isn't there? Pigeons in the grape spot now, look. Yeah, whack, whack, whack. Just adjusting my exposure on the fly. Somebody's walking in now. Get him on the right. Just visually busy, isn't it? That shock of red of the bus, the green cycle path, the light on everything. These crazy council lines. It's a guy in high vis. If I move back, there's even more railings and chaos. I guess the bus is going to go soon, but yeah, just needs something to bring it to life. It's a nice scene, but it needs something to bring it to life. That bus will go in a minute. Guy looks at me, which is a shame. Do you like all these angles? Where the cycle path kinks here is rather nice. Not many cyclists, are there? Blue's nice with the orange there. She stopped to roll a cigarette there. Okay, I've found this little corner that I like. I had to wrestle with all these lines. I felt like there was something here. But I quite like this when the sun is out, this shadow. These railings, the flagpoles behind. It's a chaos, isn't it, of graphics. It's a bit like Siegfried Hansen's style of urban photography. Just need a nice figure. So I'm struggling with the exposure here because the f***ing light is changing constantly. Excuse my language. The light is changing constantly here, so I'm struggling. Here's a cyclist coming. Yeah, basically the clouds are moving quickly and the sun is in and out, in and out. So there's a lady with a buggy here which I quite like. She could be quite good, I think, in this gap on the right here. Yeah, that was quite nice. She was leaning forward. Some orange trousers coming. So I really enjoyed that. Always interesting to shoot in a different environment to the one you're used to. I did have to adapt the way that I work a little bit, which I was expecting. You know, there are fewer people, so when you're watching a space, you just have to be a bit more patient, spend a little bit more time there, you know, to get the people coming through the frame, through the scene that you've chosen. But I'm a big believer in the fact that if you've got your camera craft down, if you're a good photographer, you know, if you can compose things, if you can see potential in a scene, you can make a great picture anywhere. In a suburban town like Croydon, in exactly the same way as you can in a busy space like the West End of London. So you probably saw also some of those pictures. You know, I spent a lot of time with them, with the scene. And I think if I find a space that's nicely lit, that has good structure, good depth, good architecture, good kind of distance, you know, foreground, middle ground, background, places where you can, you know, put your figures. It's worth spending, you know, 40 minutes, 50 minutes watching that space and getting a shot out of it. So I hope that was useful. Thanks for watching, and really now it's your turn to just grab your camera and get out there.